Good day, beautiful people. I am bringing you a live episode of what I like to call Give It to the People Live. But we decided to do it a little bit differently where you're going to get the audio, and depending upon where you're at later on, you'll also get the video that goes along with it. Now, I want to welcome you out because this is a great topic that I think is very timely, and I'm going to give you a lot of great information that you can use in order to avoid some situations. So, I'm Chisa Penix Brown, and I'm the Chief Curator at Give It to the People. I'm also a mental wealth lifestylist, which means I help you to get your mind right and your money right. Now, today, what we're going to talk about is a topic that I like to call the October Overwhelm. And this topic I thought about because I was just talking to some friends, looking at my own life, looking at what happens when it gets to this time. Now, this time of year gives you what is a part of my life, a big part of it, called the 90-Day Focus. Now, I wrote a book called The 90-Day Focus, Your Action Plan for Success. And this particular book talks about what you need to do. Oh, shoot. Welcome, everyone. I'm Chisa Penix Brown, and this is saying that I am muted. Okay, just want to make sure because it had a mute on there and it had an unmute. So I'm hoping that you guys can hear me. I did this wonderful introduction and now it is saying that I'm muted, but let me see. Okay, I shouldn't be muted. I'm looking at the thing saying that it's live. This is our first time doing this on LinkedIn, so bear with me. But I'm going to do my introduction over it just in case everybody didn't hear it. So I'm Chisa Penix Brown. I'm the Chief Curator at Give It to the People, and I'm also a mental wealth lifestylist, which means I help you to get your mind right and your money right. We do a live stream on a weekly basis called Give It to the People Live, where we highlight BIPOC businesses, women-owned businesses, and nonprofits. Today, I decided to do it a little bit different because LinkedIn has this wonderful feature where they allow you to just do the voice. So some of you will be hearing the voice, and then others of you, if you're watching on YouTube, you're also going to get the video of this. Now, today, this is a timely topic that I know myself and, a lot of other people deal with. So I wrote a book called The 90-Day Focus, Your Action Plan for Success. And this book has a focus of being able to help you to really prioritize things in your life. Because I'm a big believer in the phrase that there is imbalance. I know a lot of people want to say work-life balance, but there's really no such thing. There is prioritizing what you need to do at a particular point in time to get things done. So I came up with the concept of the October Overwhelm because if you're like me, this is the time of year where you're crunching it, right? Which means that what you want to do is you want to get the most amount done because the end of the year is coming and the new year is coming. So I said, well, look, let's get on and talk to people about the October Overwhelm because what happens is you do have people that are very driven by this time of year, people that are really truly focused and they want to hunker down and they want to make sure that they can get the most money each month. They can accomplish whatever they didn't accomplish for the rest of the year. And what I've just noticed is that that can be very daunting for a lot of people. The overwhelm comes because you know that you have things to do, but sometimes you have a big problem prioritizing those things. And so there may also be some things that you do have to do that you're overlooking because one thing is taking precedent today. So I want you to think about this when we talk about the October Overwhelm and make sure that it allows you to be able to really look at what is important, right? And so what is important for you is you really taking into consideration what you need to do each week. So when you look at the rest of the year, you have 5 weeks that are in October, and October is one of those months that has 5 weeks. It's May and October every year that have 5 weeks. Then you're going to get another 4 weeks in November and another 4 weeks in December. But guess what? You may as well just shoot out one of those weeks in November because that's going to be the week of Thanksgiving. And more than likely, you're going to be focused on family during that time. And even if you're not focused on family, you're probably going to be focused on just relaxing because you have time off from work or because the business might be closed. Or you might not have time to focus then because maybe your business is going to be open and that's a super busy time for you. Now, the other thing to consider is getting rid of that week in December, right? That week that's Christmas, that falls right into New Year's. It's like that week should really be called no man's land. What is really going on that week, right? It's kind of like, I got a little bit of stuff to do. I got a lot of bit of stuff to do. I don't want to do stuff. So I want you to think about the October overwhelm and take into consideration that when you drop it down, you got these 5 weeks in October, then you really have 6 more weeks, which leads us to what? A total of about 11 weeks left in the year if we're taking those other two out. And that's what we have left. And it seems like a lot, but you know, just like I do, that time is going to fly by. So this is what I think typically happens, and you can feel free to chime in or think about it or talk with your people, once this is over. I think that what happens is people are in a state where there is a change literally in the atmosphere, and it changes your mood. And I think that a lot of times we don't realize that change literally in the atmosphere of going from summertime to fall truly affects us and puts us into a state of overwhelm that maybe we're just not paying attention to. It is something that is going to happen, something that we cannot control. Now, unless you live in a place that is beautiful all year long, or one type of temperature all year long, then you might not feel it as much. But no matter where you live, you know that the days are going to get shorter once it gets to this time of year. Now, we haven't even gotten to daylight savings time yet. So when you look at the fact of where we're at right now, those nights are coming a little bit faster. You might feel a little different in your sleep patterns. And then that's going to change even more once daylight savings time actually does take place. So take into consideration that your sleep habits are definitely something that will help you to reduce your overwhelm. Whenever you don't get a good night's sleep, it really affects what you're able to do the next day. Not saying that you're not capable of doing things, it's just the ability that you are really forcing stuff to happen is what happens, right? So when you look at the overwhelm, a good night's sleep is definitely something that's a part of it. Now, everybody's version of good night's sleep is going to be different. So I'm not telling you have to get 8 hours, or some of you get 10 hours, some of you get 4 hours, some 6. It's going to vary depending upon, your lifestyle and what you're used to. But I am saying to you that making better habits before you go to sleep, and possibly even doing something that is going to alleviate the stress that you have when you go to sleep. So a couple of things that have been happening in my life specifically. I've been literally more active during the day. Now, a lot of that is because with our business, we're transitioning from it being at home since 2020 to now having our own curated content studio. And so what that means is that every day going out and doing something, right, that is not just in the house, is actually making me more tired, which is actually giving me better sleep. So if you were to actually throw in a little thing like exercise or a little bit more walking to get those steps in, just the motion of you doing something different will change how you feel and allow you to have better sleep. Now, other things that we've been doing is turning the television off earlier. And I think that between the television and also putting that cell phone or that tablet, because I'm a cell phone person, my husband's a tablet person. But when you put those things down, from a work standpoint, and I'm not saying that you can't still be stimulated from a funny standpoint, because there are all kinds of great funny videos online, but I am saying to think about what you're doing, what you're putting into your mind before you go to sleep, and giving yourself time to not pay attention to anything, with the exception of possibly some music or some type of white noise. Those things can really help with that overwhelm, because a lot of times what we're doing is we're getting in bed and we're planning our next day. And I'm not saying that you can't do that, because if that is the kind of thing that eases your mind, then knock yourself out. But you can't worry about every detail of the next day at bedtime. Taking into consideration what you can do in the daytime to minimize any stress that you would have at night when it's time to go to sleep can definitely help with the overwhelm. So then I'm saying after that, right, hopefully you can get a good night's sleep. If you can't get it that way, then I would suggest possibly trying some CBD products. There are plenty of great things you can get on Amazon, plenty of great things that you can probably get in a local store. I've also tried Kava, Kava. Kava is definitely a great thing in order to relax you. There are a lot of different things that you could try that are natural, but also things that are stimulants that can then cause you to go to sleep. But let's just say you can possibly tackle that. The overwhelm is coming when you are in a position that is not allowing you to be able to think clearly. So in my position, I like to think of, I need time to be creative. Now, there are times to do tasks and get things done, but sometimes just being creative is what you need to release overwhelm. So this is something that I want to suggest to you. Find something creative in your day to do that doesn't necessarily have anything to do with work. If that's going to be coloring, if that's going to be making a playlist, if that's going to be being on Pinterest and putting some boards together, if it's going to be, literally painting, something else other than what you typically do, right? Now, even for some people, it could be being creative, making a video, right? So a lot of times if I feel like there is overwhelm from the month, I will stop and do something that is more creative. And what I've learned is that the opportunity that I give myself when I'm in the position to be creative, as soon as I finish, all of a sudden now some of those ideas start coming to me, and it gives the opportunity for your mind to have wandered somewhere else. So I think that if you can find something creative to do in your day, then that can definitely help you. Now, I have in the studio now a tongue drum, okay? And I'm sure plenty of you have heard of it, but it is that instrument that you have the two little tongues, and then you hit the little tongues essentially, and each one of them is numbered and they make a different sound. And just doing that, 30 seconds, 60 seconds, sometimes even 5 minutes, it clears your mind, because what you're doing is now you're focused on that activity and making a song or making some sounds that are appealing to you. Now, if you don't like that, one other option that I could tell you is to play games. Now, I don't know how many of you like solitaire, or there's a game that I like called Two Dots. There are plenty of things that you can do online, even if you want to do spelling games, right? Those kind of things can take your mind off of anything that is stressful. And what I found is the reason that they work, and I'm just giving you this in particular to me, but first of all, you have something to focus on. But second of all, what happens is you're going to win something. So when you keep achieving different levels and you keep winning, it's going to send a signal to your mind that's like, oh God, look, I did something great. Now that little win online where you're really just battling yourself does not really mean anything in the big world, right? But in your mind of getting something accomplished and reaching a level, it's a small thing that is a win to you. And now it can often open up your mind and reduce your overwhelm. So those are just some tips in that regard. But if you're feeling the October overwhelm, part of it could be also that you are in a position where you really do have a lot of stuff to do. There really is an expectation of you to get things done. And that could be budget wise. It could just be the money that you want to bring in wise. It could be team wise. It could be that you're trying to prove your worth somewhere. It could be that you're trying to do something amazing for next year. So this is my solution for you. Write down all the things that you need to do. Literally take the time to write those things down. Now, for me, I like to write them on a list. And what I've started doing is utilizing an app that is called Google Keep, Keep, Google Keep. And I wrote myself a list the other day of all the things that I wanted to accomplish. And then I was able to go back to that list and cross things off the list. Now, I knew that that list far exceeded what I was going to do and could do within that week. But what I knew was that every time that I was able to tick something off of that list, that feeling of accomplishment was equal to or greater to playing a game and reaching a new level. Because what I did was I said, well, look, these are the things that I need to do. Certain things on this list have to be done by a certain time frame. The other things have a little bit more time to them. And so it gave me the opportunity to really think about what I had to do, take everything out of my mind and put it there for somebody else to also be able to help me with. And it simplified things for me. Then what would happen is I would see that as I started to complete a task, that there might be something else that needed to be added to the list. And so that was okay because I had already completed something and it gave me that next little boost that I needed. So the overwhelm may be real, like that you really do have a lot of stuff to get together. But I think that once you can start to narrow it down, it will then alleviate the amount of stress that you have. Now, the other thing could be that you, and this may be your situation. I had a discussion with a friend. You might be overwhelmed because you don't have enough to do. It's like, oh my God, did she just say that? Yes. So the thing is, it's not that you don't have enough to do. It's that you might not really know how to take some downtime that you've been blessed with. And I just had a conversation today with a friend, and she's like, I've been up for like the last 24 hours. And I'm like, what in the world were you doing? And she's saying to me, well, look, I didn't have to work. Now, she runs multiple businesses, does an amazing job at all of these things, is definitely a type A personality, and definitely likes to achieve things, right? So her not having anything to do gave her a sense of overwhelm that put her into a state where she could not sleep. Now, my advice was take a shower and go lay down and give yourself a time frame where you set an alarm and then come back and start your day over. Because she had been up for so long that she was overwhelmed with not having anything to do. And even though she did have a real list of things to do, her body was telling her, don't do those things right now. So it's not that she couldn't have, because the opportunity was there time-wise, but the desire wasn't there. And she felt a sense of overwhelm that was tackling every little piece of go ahead and do something. All of those little go ahead and do something pieces of energy were getting tackled by the no, 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 no. You don't need to do this right now. So I just want you to think about the fact that you do need downtime. And if you're not giving yourself the downtime and you're feeling guilty about taking downtime, it is only going to cause yourself to be more overwhelmed. Now, October has 31 days in it, which is, a great thing. So where we sit right now gives you most of the month to be able to accomplish whatever you want to do this month. I would say to you, if you're not an electronic person, that you can also get your sticky notes out and write down what you actually need to accomplish in this week. You don't have to go further than this week. And you can give yourself a list for the next week. And then anything that hasn't been done this week, you can go ahead and move it down to the next week. Now, I like sticky notes because I like to ball them up and throw them out. And it feels good once you get something done. So I use this typically when I'm teaching people in the realm of if you were doing your marketing for social media. There are things that you need to tell people on a regular basis. There are things that people definitely need to know in order for them to make an informed decision. When you're looking at this as far as your life and the overwhelm that you feel, there are simple decisions like dinner, right? So what are you going to eat for dinner? What you can do is you can start meal prepping, or you can order DoorDash before you leave the office and you can have it delivered to the house. You can get something like a Hello Fresh. Now, I don't like to do those order things when you get them shipped to the house. I've done it before, but I always feel like the meal portion isn't enough, so therefore that's not my favorite thing. But what I do like is going to Fresh Market, and you may or may not have a Fresh Market near you, but they have these meals every week, and you get a certain selection. And in that selection, you have some beef, you have pork, you have chicken, you typically have at least one seafood choice. And they're going to give you these meals, which are going to range between $16 to $25. They definitely feed two people, and you get to choose from those. Now, what is great about that as far as Overwhelm? I do not need to think about what vegetable I'm going to use. I don't need to think about if I'm going to have a carb or a starch. I don't need to think about necessarily the meat per se or the protein. Because when I get there, I am personally trying to not have an expectation of specifically what I want to eat. I am looking to see what you already have that is there so I can go home and prepare that. Now, there is a decision to make, but once I look at the meal, I can say, okay, well, you know what? I want some salmon tonight, and that salmon has green beans or it has asparagus or whatever is with it. And you know what? I'm going to go with that option because it's limited. So I think in this example that sometimes the reason that you feel overwhelmed is because you have too many choices. So if you can then reduce the choices that you have, and then you can say, I'm only going to pick from this bunch, you can make better decisions because they can be done faster, and then you can go on with your life. So once I get that meal, I come home, I cook it. It takes usually no more than 30 minutes. Dinner is done, hands washed, stuff is plated. Let's go ahead and sit and eat dinner. And then if there are other things that need to happen after that, they happen after that, right? So I'm giving you that as an example for the overwhelm because I wanted to give you multiple ways to look at how October can be an overwhelming month, right? But I also know that what you can do is you can take it and you can flip it on its head. And you can look at the risks that you would have to be overwhelmed, right? Because that's not even talking about if some type of emergency or accident or anything happened, or if there was something like the storm that just came through North Carolina this weekend, which wasn't just North Carolina, but it's just that that's where I live. And for some people, it knocked out the power. Now, those people that had their power knocked out felt a different sense of overwhelm than me. My sense of overwhelm was, oh, it's going to be raining. I'm going to stay home this weekend, right? And so, pardon me, during that time, it was just like, we're going to get work done. So I want you to think about this and take into consideration, pardon me, that you don't have to be overwhelmed. It is totally up to you to make decisions that can reduce your overwhelm. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't have plenty of things to do. It just means prioritize them.